when I was studying greatness and putting this book together, the definition of greatness came to me from one of the greatest people to ever play the game of basketball, and that's Kobe Bryant. And someone asked him, what is greatness? And he put it in such a simplistic form, and it made all the sense in the world. And he said, it's simply your ability to inspire the next person.
Welcome to the Greatness Ignited podcast, where we have conversations about the greatness of others so that you can recognize the greatness in you. My name is Barry Overton, and I have been studying greatness for the last 7 years, and it is taking my career to new heights. And now me and a few of the successful people that I have had the honor of interviewing are coming together to ignite your greatness and light the fire within.
All right, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Greatness Ignited podcast. This is season 2, and I am your host, Barry Overton. I started this podcast earlier in the spring of 2021, really for the sole purpose of bringing people together so we can discuss the greatness in others so that you can realize the greatness that you have inside you. And today we're going to do something a little bit different. I'll share that here in a moment, but I'm going to bring my guest on first. I have a guest that is really someone that the Greatness Ignited podcast probably would not be without this lady. Ignite Your Greatness probably would not be in bookstores and on Amazon without this lady. She is my book coach. She is a book coach for many people all across the country. She also has a publishing service and has helped so many authors around the country to get their story out, get the message out that they had to deliver and put it in a book form. And I can tell you, like I said, without her services and the patience to work with me for about a year and a half of writing my book, it wouldn't be here today. So I have so much gratitude for this lady. So without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, Mrs. Amy Collette. How are you doing, Amy?
I'm great, Barry. Thank you for that wonderful introduction.
Absolutely. Yeah, and like I said, it's so very true. And I think many authors that you've worked with would probably say the same thing. And it's amazing that being able to work with you through the process made it so much easier. I think in my mind, and probably other authors that are first-time authors, the process of writing a book from our own mind is such an uphill battle. But working with you, it became, it was just an even road, and I think it was, and also having that accountability coach as well, someone to help keep us on track. So again, it's much appreciated what you've been able to do for me with this process.
Well, thank you, Barry. And I got to say, you're like my dream client, because you were so fired up about getting your message out that that's just who I want to help, is people who really want to help others experience transformation that they've experienced themselves. And, like you say about your podcast, you want to help others see the greatness within. And that's what your book does. And that's what any really great nonfiction, I call it transformational nonfiction, does for people. It really helps ignite something within them.
Yes, absolutely. And we're doing something a little bit different today. When my video editor that does all the podcast videos came to me and he said, you know what, when we did the first season, you didn't really talk about you and ignite your greatness as much. You did some great interviews and you got some great messages out, but we didn't learn as an audience. The audience didn't learn a whole lot about you. And so it got me to thinking, and I said, you're right. And he said, you need to be interviewed. And I started thinking, who could do that? And I thought, what better person than the person that really knows this book inside and out, probably just as much as I do, than, my book coach, and that would be you. So I thought it would be great to have you come on and interview me. So ladies and gentlemen, we are flipping the script today, and we're going to learn about Barry Overton and ignite your greatness. And your host is going to be Amy Collette.
Well, it's my honor and pleasure to be here to talk about you and your book because they really have inspired me. Okay, so Barry, I want to start off with the question that you ask in your book, which I have to hold up. I love to show your beautiful cover. That you have asked many of the people that you interviewed in your book. And so I want to ask you this question. When did you first recognize your own greatness within?
I love it. And we've had conversations about how difficult this question is for a lot of people to answer. And I guess for me, now I almost have to think about it. But I think that it's, to think about the first time, I do remember an occasion as a police officer realizing I was working at the airport and I was working an off-duty shift. And there was someone that was just lost in the airport, needed some assistance getting around. And there was this kind of customer service almost type of persona that I took on at the airport. And I think people could really appreciate that, and I had someone that told me, man, for a police officer, I mean, you're just so down to earth and really nice and things of that nature. And then I heard that from, I had people that I arrested, they got into physical altercations with, but after the handcuffs were on and we're processing them, they would thank me for, just treating them with respect, and apologize for whatever, issues they caused prior to the incident. So that was a moment for me where I realized, okay, there's something different about me that people recognize that I haven't really recognized. And then fellow officers and, because of my entrepreneurial spirit, I was definitely outside the box as far as law enforcement officers go, that I had all these other endeavors. So how I recognize greatness is in me was the fact that other people would bring up certain things that were unique about me. And I took notice of that. And I said, you know what, I got to realize that people are noticing this about me. So there must be something to it. There must be something special in regards to that. And again, I think it was that spirit that's inside of me, number one, that always wants to help and be helpful to people, but that for burning desire and that passion was that entrepreneurial aspect of it. It was the same thing that I had as an athlete when I was playing high school sports. It was just the burning desire shifted, and it shifted into the business world. So I guess to answer the question, it's been, multiple times in my life when people have pointed out something special. And I think that that's something that we all have to kind of take into account. The things that we can do that we're skilled at and we can do with ease, many people in the world will look at it in awe. And we have to realize the things that we can do with ease, but the world takes from a perspective of they're awe-inspired by those things. That is your talent, and that is tapping into your greatness. So you can't, neglect those gifts.
I love that, Barry. But I want to ask you, I think your connection with your own greatness goes back even further. So there's a story in the book that you talk about how you used to put a cape on as a kid, right?
Yeah.
And you really connected with this superhero. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, and that's when I'm doing on tour and I'm doing my speech, that's the first story that I talk about. And I talk about it from a standpoint of dreaming and how important it is to never stop dreaming and to always dream big. And I also talk about how the best dreamers on the planet are children, because they dream without limitations and they dream with boldness. And without a doubt that their dream is going to come true. And it's through the course of life that we realize over time that, man, maybe this dream is too big for me. Maybe I need to tone down my dream. And then we start doing it as we become adults. We start doing the same thing with our goals. We water down our goals because we want to make them attainable. But I always tell people that we got to stretch our goals. But for me, it definitely goes back to a time in childhood of, wearing a terry cloth towel with a big safety pin on and running down the street, and the wind is just flapping. My cape is flapping in the wind. And in my mind, at 4 years old, I had no doubt that I was going to be Superman. And it was something that I never stopped dreaming big. To this day, I still dream big. And, even though at some point, obviously at about 8 years old, I had to get rid of the cape. One of the things that I always learned to do is if I gave up a dream for whatever reason, whether it was just realizing, okay, Superman is not real, that's just a character on TV or in the movies, I always had to attach myself to another big dream. And so that was probably the early lessons in life for me that I look back on and realize that I always dreamed big and I never stopped dreaming.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that really stands out to me in your book. One is that you kind of had that seed planted in your head about greatness, of being kind of a superhero from a young age.
Yeah.
And you saw greatness in other people. So in the book, you interview other people who you think are great. And you also had a very early role model that you were able to look at and attach your dreams to. So tell me a little bit about how that came about with your uncle.
Yeah, and now I've learned this quote from Tony Robbins. Obviously, I didn't know it as a kid, but Tony Robbins said, if you want to be successful, find someone that has achieved the results that you want and copy what they do until you achieve the same results. And that's really what I was doing without ever knowing that quote and understanding it. But it's a principle. It's a law really of life, I think, of being able, we're told in school that, you can't copy someone else's paper. You can't be a copycat. But in life, you're awarded for copying the right people. They say, it's okay to be a copycat as long as you copy the right cat. So, the guy that I copycat was, I call him my real life Superman that was in my life from the day that I was born. He was my uncle, Freddie Maxwell. And he was someone that at a very early age, I looked up to, my siblings looked up to, all of my cousins and other family members looked up to him because he was the first African-American sergeant, lieutenant, and captain of the Austin Police Department. He was also a real estate investor. So for me, growing up in Austin, Texas, in an impoverished life, at a certain point, we experienced homelessness, not to the degree of not having a roof over our head, but we lived with different relatives. Just in second grade, I was in 3 different elementary schools because we were moving around so much.
Yeah.
But again, it was always holding on to the dream. And it was at 17 that, I went through my dream of being Superman. And then I wanted to play in the NFL. And then when I got injured playing football and decided that was not what I wanted to do, I, realized that life kind of came full circle and brought me back to this real life Superman that was protecting and serving the community, the same thing that Superman did. And he was a police officer. And I realized that he had created a very comfortable life for himself, and he was very successful. And it just made sense. So it was in that moment for me at 17 that I made a decision to become a police officer. I knew that real estate was going to be a part of my life as well. I started out before I was a real estate broker. I was an investor just like he was at the age of probably 28, 29 years old. So before I was 30, I had started to copy what he had achieved, and I was achieving those same results in law enforcement and real estate.
Yeah, I love that, just because I think so few of us are so motivated and so clear on our dreams and goals at that young an age. So that's really inspirational to me, Barry, to watch how your life unfolded in that way. And
Yeah.
then another thing that I love about the book, and that really helps it stand out, is that you unveil this theory of greatness and take us through all these different ways that you kind of prove that we have greatness within us. So, talk to me a little bit about. At one point, you explained how you're laying out a case. So, tell me about laying out the case for greatness.
Yeah, so my 26 years in law enforcement, I spent the majority of it as a narcotics detective. And being in narcotics, going into a court of law, putting a case together, you have to build a case that, based off of the evidence in front of you, that can prove your case beyond a reasonable doubt to be able to get a guilty
Yeah.
conviction for whoever, is on trial. And so when writing this book, I took that same type of mentality because I had this belief in regards to greatness is in all of us. It's not just reserved for, these amazing athletes or the
Right.
wealthy. A lot of times we put greatness on that type of pedestal. But when you realize that the guy that lives in your neighborhood that, feeds 1,000 homeless people a month, well, that's greatness. He's tapping into his greatness. Maybe it's not, on the scale of a Tom Brady or a Michael Jordan, but he is living in his greatness. And when I was studying greatness and putting this book together, the definition of greatness came to me from one of the greatest people to ever play the game of basketball, and that's Kobe Bryant. And
Yeah.
someone asked him, "What is greatness?" And he put it in such a simplistic form, and it made all the sense in the world. And he said, "It's simply your ability to inspire the next person." So your ability to inspire other people. And so it doesn't have to be, now obviously Michael Jordan, Tom Brady, Michael Jackson, all these people have inspired the masses, so many different people. But I can tell you, there's people, my uncle, you don't know Freddie Maxwell, but he inspired me and he's inspired so many people around him. So he's living in his greatness. So it really comes down with the theory of greatness, of getting people to understand that we all have greatness inside of us. At what level we unleash it on the world is really up to us with that. And so part of the proof that I give that we all have greatness inside of us is I share the odds. And when we just hear the term odds, it almost sounds like something it's an uphill battle, or it's something that's against us,
Yeah.
that the odds are stacked against us, or you can't beat the odds, different things of that nature. And so in the book, in a chapter of the book, I talk about some of the odds in life. Like, for instance, the odds of being struck by lightning. 3,000 to 1 are the odds that in your lifetime you will be struck by lightning, which honestly, I thought those numbers were a little low. I think there's a likelihood that, at 3,000 to 1, I could be struck by lightning. I
Yeah.
thought the number would be much bigger than that. But there's a number that I'm glad is much bigger, and that's 3.4 million to 1. Those are the odds of being bit by a shark. And, I always joke around I live in Denver, Colorado. I'm in the Mile High City. If I get bit in Denver, I think we're all in trouble. So, but again, the odds of being bit by a shark are 3.4 million to 1. Pretty high odds of that not happening. This is one I wish the odds were lower. 175 million to 1. Those are the odds of winning the lottery. And, when I think about it, most people don't know anyone that has been struck by lightning, bit by a shark, or won the lottery. But I want to give you two numbers: 400 million to 1, 400 trillion to 1. And the 400 million to 1 are the odds of a human sperm cell and a human egg coming together and creating an embryo
Yeah.
that creates life? 400 million to 1. 400 trillion to 1, according to Mel Robbins, Gary Vaynerchuk. I've heard them say this on multiple occasions. Those are just the odds of being born. 400 trillion to 1. Yet and still, we're all here. So we have already beat the greatest odds that life has to throw at us. If that's not greatness, I just don't know what it is.
That's great, Barry. I was just reading today about about the odds of this planet even being here, and that just increases the odds so much more, and that we have air to breathe and water to drink and all that kind of stuff. It adds even more to your theory.
Really.
So Barry, I heard you talk about some of the people who inspire you, and you have a lot of those folks throughout the book. So I'd love to know about how different people have inspired you in different ways. So I know some of those people are sports folks. Some of them are inspirational, like Les Brown. I think they're all inspirational in some way, but and then some have inspired you to greatness in business. So I'd love to hear you give some examples and stories of how people in your book have inspired you.
Yeah, and I think probably my biggest inspiration, because it's been from a child all the way until adulthood to currently, is probably Muhammad Ali. And I think as a kid, I was inspired by his boxing skills and his prowess in the ring and what he was able to achieve there. And as I got older and understanding the time that he was living in and the climate of racial inequality, he became more of a hero to me for his stand on civil rights and justice for all, more so than what he did in the boxing ring, because he was standing up to a system at that time that in many cases would find ways to bring you down, and in some cases, I mean, we had many people that were assassinated for making those types of stands, but he made that stand with such conviction and fearlessness that is so much bigger to me now than what he was able to do in the boxing ring. And when we talk about greatness and the things that you're able to achieve, sometimes, I think God gives us a little, obviously some help along the way with that. And I think it was because of his stature in the boxing world that he gave him such an amazing platform to be able to do some great things in the civil rights aspect of it. And then even after retiring from boxing, after being diagnosed with Parkinson, and after seeing the effects of Parkinson really kind of take over. I remember he went to, in probably 1991, he went to Iraq and sat down with Saddam Hussein and orchestrated the freedom of some hostages that were over there. This is something our own government couldn't do. And once again, this shows greatness on a whole nother level of what we knew of Muhammad Ali, him working in a whole different arena, and just knowing him as a person of who he was and how, while, again, he was very, braggadocious. You either loved him or hated him as a boxer. And, but then you could see that, away from the ring, and I've looked at so much footage and documentaries on him, you could see his love and compassion for all mankind, not just African Americans. So he was just special on so many different levels for that. And then, and there's Les Brown is another one right now that, again, I've had the opportunity to be trained by him. I've interviewed him. He's interviewed me. And really, someone that I consider in public speaking, the maestro, I call him the maestro of public speaking, and I've learned through his training that speaking is an art. It's not just something that you do. It is, to be able to be a public speaker and do it very well. It is an art form, and he teaches it at a very high level. And so, not just his story. Before I had ever met him and got to know him, his story was so inspiring. But then again, when you can get behind the curtain and you can kind of see the true person that you're seeing, not just the person you hear on the videos or you see on stage, you can see the compassion that someone has. The greatness just shines through. Just like with Muhammad Ali, it really just shines through with him. And then, and I've had the fortune of so many different in business, so many different mentors that I've had there. But I probably give most credit to where I'm at currently today to a gentleman that I call a friend, but we were business partners as well. And he's been a mentor for about 8 years now. And that's Rod Smith. He's a former Denver Bronco, a 2-time Super Bowl champion with him. But most people don't know that he has 3 business degrees. And since he's retired from the NFL, he's had the opportunity to be on coaching staffs in the NFL. He's had opportunities to be an announcer and in front of the camera. But his passion after retiring from the NFL is again to help other people become free financially, and teaching them using those 3 business degrees that he earned and helping others to create financial freedom for themselves. And that's what he's been doing for the past 10 years or so since he retired. And once again, it's just, you can see the authenticity of someone when you get behind the curtain and you get to know them and just realize, it was, for me, in those instances, those were all, greatness in progress and greatness on display that I was able to see with all 3 of those gentlemen.
And Rod has also written the foreword to your book.
Yeah.
So he's prominently displayed in the book. That's awesome. So diving deeper into your business career. So you were a police officer and you always kind of had a side hustle. You always had some kind of business going on. And then you kind of went all in on business. You want to talk a little bit about that, Barry?
Yeah, and that was really being in law enforcement for 26 years. It was probably, I thought I would do maybe 20. And when I got to the 20-year mark, I told myself, man, I literally talked myself out of it because it was fear. It was fear and doubt. And, after reading Outwitting the Devil, I realized that the devil was working in that aspect of fear and doubt that kept me from pursuing my dreams. And I think so many people get into that place. But I can tell you, I started my personal development journey in 2008. So it's been about 13 years now. And 2008 is when I started the journey. 2013 is when the personal development had built up to a point where I was able to retire 10 years early from my job as a police officer and do it with confidence and conviction, in knowing that whatever I set my mind to, I'm going to be successful at it. And at that time, that's when I was working with Rod in a company called Organo Gold. It was a network marketing company, and it was a coffee distribution business that we had there. And I'd already been in real estate for 12 years, but I never had the confidence to say, okay, I'm going to just go all in on real estate. But because I had a mentor that had been successful with this business, he had helped many other people become very successful with it. And very quickly, he helped me to become successful with it. Only 11 months into the business, I was able to walk away from a 6-figure income as a police officer and never look back, and do it without any fear, without any doubt, and had a great run with the coffee business. And during a period in 2016, the business took a turn, and the revenue started going down. My income started going down, and it actually put me in the situation that I most feared, of being in a place where I couldn't afford to pay my bills and couldn't afford to, keep a roof over my head and all those different things. Fortunately, I was able to keep a roof over my head, but again, it was the toughest financial career or year that I had ever had. And on top of it, it was also an emotional time because I had lost a brother in 2015, and then I lost my father 13 months later in the summer of 2016. And so there was a lot that was happening during that time.
Yeah.
But I can tell you, because of personal development, I never thought to myself, why is this happening to me? I never thought, man, I should go back, to the police department. I never thought about going back. I was always still looking forward. And the biggest thing that I took away from it was, this is going to make an amazing story one day, because I'm going to get through this without giving up. And again, that was part of the drive to be able to continue to do the things that I did. And fortunately, I had a background in real estate, but I never given real estate full time, all my time. So in 2017, I said, you know what? I'm going to go all in on real estate. I know the business. I've learned so many different marketing techniques with the coffee business. Let me take what I've learned here, apply it over here, and let's see what happens. And it was the best move I could have ever made. I mean, for the very first time in my real estate career, I made six figures that year that I made the decision. And then I almost doubled it in 2018. And then 2018 or 19 outdid 2018. 2020 was a really good year as well. In 2021, where we're at right now, is already right now is better than all of them. So it's just continued to get better and better. And again, I attribute that, number one, to the having proper counsel along the way and mentorship, but really having a mindset of envisioning what it is that I want for my life, and then just pursuing it until the vision becomes reality.
Yeah, I love that. So what I hear you saying is that you've been inspired by a whole lot of people, and now your story is quite inspirational too. So how are you bringing your inspirational story to the world, besides just between the cover of your book?
Yeah, so right now what we're doing, again, the Greatness Ignited podcast gives us an opportunity to do that. But actually being able to tell my story, I've been fortunate that, again, I think this is one of those areas of working in boldness. The people that I'm inspired by, I'm just fearless. I don't have any problem reaching out to them. And, even though, they're very successful, they're famous, and just saying, hey, I would love to interview you, or I would love to be mentored by you, or if you have a training program. And in one instance, a gentleman that I interviewed for my book, his name is Billy Allsbrooks. He's a motivational speaker that is, I think, over 50 million streams on many different platforms that he's currently on. He's a best-selling author as well with Blessed and Unstoppable. And I've had the fortune of interviewing him. He's actually in my book. A chapter of my book is dedicated to him and his story. And through that interview, it led to us staying connected, becoming friends. And I've been on tour with him pretty much all this year, picking up certain tour dates that I could around the country. So I've had the opportunity to continue to share the story and share more about the theory of greatness.
Yeah, it's awesome. So I know one of the ways you do it in your book too is at the end of every chapter, you help people integrate the stories and the inspiration into their own lives. So bringing it into the practical and like, how do I bring this greatness into my life? So tell me a little bit about how you came up with that idea and how you bring people through the book to discover and unleash their own greatness.
Yeah, and I think it came down to me for reading Think and Grow Rich for the sixth time. And, and because the reason I did that is because I was told that most millionaires have read Think and Grow Rich at least 10 times. So I've read it multiple times because I'm trying to get to my 10 so I can get to my million. But what I realized on the sixth time, because I didn't do this the first 5 times, the sixth time it was part of a book club, and what I started to share with them is that at the end of each chapter, I was apply what I just learned. So if the chapter was talking about writing your affirmations out in the morning and reading them at the end of the day, then it's great to read that and say, oh yeah, that's good information. No, you have to actually start to apply it to make a difference in your life. Yeah. And when I started thinking about all the different books that I either read or if I listened to them on Audible, and realizing that I've read some great information from motivational speakers or personal development coaches, but did I apply it? And realizing that many people do the same thing. They don't apply what they're learning. They get some great information, but they're not applying it. So for me, at the end of each chapter of the book, I am giving you action steps to be able to take. I first ask you some thought-provoking questions in regards to the chapter and how it applies to your life, because I want you as the reader to really start peeling back the layers of you to get into that greatness inside of you. And then I ask you to take these action steps in moving towards your greatness. And once you can start applying those things and you do it consistently, you'll see that things will start to change in your life for the better, where again, you're realizing and understanding this greatness inside of you.
There's greatness within you. We've all heard those words before, but do we truly believe it? I can tell you, it took me about 3 years of studying greatness before I realized there truly is greatness inside of me. And I wrote a book called Ignite Your Greatness that proves the theory that we all have greatness within us. And I take it a step further. Once I prove it to you, I tell you exactly how to ignite the fire within you and take your life to new heights. Get your copy of Ignite Your Greatness at igniteyourgreatness.com. Also available on Amazon.
Yeah, I love that idea of bringing it full circle into, it's easy to read about somebody, and you even talk about that, like putting people on a pedestal, like these sports figures and that kind of stuff. But you're the same level of greatness. We all are, right? We just have to recognize it and bring it out into the world.
Yeah, I just wanted to jump in on that because I look at like the work ethic of Kobe Bryant or Michael Jordan or Tom Brady. When you hear the stories of what their day looks like in the regiment, and their discipline to stay on their plan day after day, and I realized that okay, I'm not throwing a football or shooting a basketball, but I'm applying those same types of steps, and I have that same type of discipline in the area that I work in. Whether it's real estate, whether it was writing the book, whether it's doing the podcast, I've put those things into place for myself as well. And I think that's one thing that we a lot of times when you hear how someone has achieved greatness in a particular singing or dancing or whatever the case may be, it's not trying to duplicate what they did singing or dancing. It's trying to duplicate the behavior that created the level of success that they had in that one particular area. you can create the behavior and have same type of success, but in a totally different area.
They call it practice for a reason, right? So Barry, after the book and your podcast and your speaking now, what's next? What's coming next for you?
So right now with the Greatness Ignited podcast, we're right here filming and shooting season 2. We'll be doing that here for the next couple of weeks. Hopefully the first episode will be about the middle of November. We don't have a date just yet. But along with that, right in the middle of November, I'm also making a switch in my real estate business to a new company. And it's a company that is going to allow me to grow nationally. And I'm really excited about that because my wife, Amy, and I, we have a condo in San Diego. And, we figured, we kind of put the numbers together, and we think 4 years from now, we want to be spending more time in San Diego than Denver. We'll still probably have a place here, but we'll flip things and we'll be there the majority of the time, and then periodically here in Denver. But it's important to me to still have my real estate business that I've grown to a certain level to keep it going. But now I'm looking to also grow it in California. But I was able to join a company, EXP, that is going to give me, honestly, the opportunity to grow it internationally because they're in multiple countries, not only just in every state in the U.S. So really excited about that. We already had, I'm not even there yet, and already have 3 team members that will be joining me over there, and just really excited with that. And one of the things that I think I get most excited about with that is helping other people achieve the level of success that I have. So I'm reversing what Tony Robbins has said. I am now the person that, I'm saying, hey, let me show you what to copy. Let me show you what to do to achieve this level of success. While in turn, I'm still copying people that have achieved higher success than I have. So that's really an exciting part of all of this. And in addition to that, I also have a course that's in the process of being created. It's called Ignite Your Greatness for Real Estate Agents. So there's going to be a focus on, most of the training courses that I have taken for real estate, they really focus on branding, marketing, and a little bit of mindset. Well, I'm doing a 90-day course that gives you 90 days of mindset, 30 days mindset, 30 days branding, 30 days marketing. But I really want to hit home how important the mindset piece is. It's the foundation of anything that we're doing. I can teach you to do all the things that I do from a branding standpoint or a marketing standpoint, but if you don't approach it with the right mindset, you can't achieve the things that I've been able to achieve. So I'm really excited about that because there's really no course like it that I've seen. So I'm really glad to be able to be bringing that out in 2022. And there's something else. I totally lost it right now, but so many different things that, and one thing that I've kind of learned, and people always ask me, man, I don't know how you do everything that you do, and when are you going to slow down? I have no plans to slow down. I mean, I look at, number one, that I put my business life on hold because I was afraid to make the leap for quite a few years. So I feel like I'm playing catch up, honestly. And again, I think that greatness, just like Kobe said, is your ability to inspire others. But there's 7.4 billion people on the planet. I got a lot of people to go out there and touch and inspire. So I just want to get to as many as God sees in his plan for me that I need to go out and touch. So as a long answer to your question, but the short answer would be just continuing to go out, inspire, impact others, and work in God's plan.
So thank you for that, Barry, because what I heard through all of that is a theme that runs through your life, your book, everything you do, which is your purpose, which is to serve others.
Yeah.
And you talk about that in depth in the book, and I see it and I hear it in everything you say, everything you're doing. You're serving your clients in your real estate business. Now you're serving to help others do the same. And that's beautiful. I see you inspiring and helping and mentoring so many people now and in the future. And I wish you the absolute very best with all of it.
Well, thank you very much. And thank you. This was a great interview. I love it. We should probably send the questions and everything to anyone else that interviews me down the road. You created a blueprint for it.
Thanks, Barry. It's been my pleasure.
Yeah, and thank you so much. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us. And I hope that, again, all I want to do is be able to inspire and empower other people. So I hope there was something that you were able to get from this message today that does just that for you. Until next week, when we have our next episode, remember this. Yes, the struggle is real, but so is your greatness.
Ignite your greatness, take a leap of faith and you'll make it. Wanna live life to the fullest, you gotta be hardworking and patient. You got the fire within you, you got a dream that you should be chasing. Pushing through to the finish line and you got no time to be wasting, yeah. Ignite your greatness, take a leap of faith and you'll make it.